Let's have a conversation around that with Mr. Bode, who is immediate past SSA to the President on political matters. He's also initiator of G2C, that's G2C interface, as government to citizens interface. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Bukola. Good morning, Nigerians. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you as well.
Thank you, sir.
You know, in the middle of all of this, the engine of government has to keep flowing. The cycle of activities have to be sustained and all of that. First of all, let's begin with Professor Soyinka's comment, about his visit to the president. The visit, the idea of the visit, after which he himself describes as an embarrassing visit, having advised against it and all of that. How much of that is political? How much of that is friendly? What do you make of all of
that? Let me say, first of all, that you must agree that Professor Wole Soyinka has been a long-term friend of the president. If I recall that exactly 10 years ago, when we used to organize, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu colloquium every year, he was actually the chairman of that particular colloquium 10 years ago, 2013. And I remember he said a few things about him which are personal. That's one. Then two, I would say that, Yoruba says that, can I say that? In adage, they say it's Agbakiwa Loja Kori Omo Tuntun Wo. In other words, you do not have the elders in the market square, and then a newborn will have its head turn in the wrong direction. So in other words, we don't expect the nation to go wrong when you have elders in town. Now, I see Professor Wole Soyinka as someone who is completely unpolitical, unbiased, very objective in anything he does and says. And I think that he's looking at the president right now as a friend and saying to his face, I have an idea of the kind of things he might have discussed. I have an idea, clear idea. Looking at him and say, look, if this is going this way, it has to go that way. And I think we need elders in this land at this time who are completely unbiased. You might know that we have many others who have one way or the other, who have some other things behind their minds. But that's not the Nigeria we need right now. We need a Nigeria that stands as one, and one that looks into the president's eyes to say, let's get things right. That's what I think. So I don't believe this is anything political. I think it's friendly, and I think it's, looking at the stage of elder statesman and speaking to the nation.
Would you also say that his 7-point agenda is not political? If you said you have an idea.
So. I have a clear idea, yeah.
Okay, so what kind of things could be on that list?
We are starting too early on that then. If you follow Professor Wole Soyinka clearly, you see he speaks completely all the time about a particular thing, which is the centralization of government. He says it all the time. And you see, for the kind of nation that we have right now, and the kind of nation I think we've had for a while, we have not even defined the kind of democracy that we really need in our nation, Nigeria. We have not defined the kind of governance that we need. I might look at a nation, this is probably preferring solutions, I don't know if it is, but I think that the kind of nation we need right now is the one that goes back to focusing on the geopolitical zones, 6 of them, and then removing that too much power from the central. This is just my suggestion, right? So that every single time we have things to discuss, we do not have 36 state governors in Abuja and a president. No, rather we'll be having smaller people, clusters, meetings. I hope that's well, that goes somewhere.
I'd like to know more that may be on that list, but first of all, it's important that I take you up on your perceived unbiased, acceptance of the disposition of the Nobel laureate.
Yeah.
If we went by events of 2015, because he has asked us to also situate his refusal to criticize the president now, based on his antecedents. But if we went by events of 2015, when he didn't support former President Goodluck Jonathan's re-election bid, and he said at that time that, former President Muhammadu Buhari should be viewed as a born-again Democrat. Should we see that as an extension of his support for his friend and current president, Bola Tinubu?
Let me go deep, a bit into governance. You see, we do not see a lot of things on the outside, but those on the inside, they see things clearer. It is completely impossible to come into office anywhere in the world, maybe, but I know about Nigeria, to come into office and then be ready to run in 2 months or in 6 months. It's completely impossible. For the kind of people we have, for the kind of economy we run, you need a minimum of 6 to 1 year before you understand what's before you. May I recall that a question was asked, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, and I'll try to remember the third person, 3 presidents of this country, who told us that Buhari was Buhari, who told us after a little while that if they had told me that this is the way this country was, I wouldn't have believed it. Why? Because from outside, you are looking at the situation differently. When you get inside, you see exactly the picture. The best footballers are those spectators. When you are given the boots to play, then you realize that the field could be against you. In fact, your friends and colleagues can be against you. So I see the reason why he says no. Let me not say nothing.
You're reiterating what he has said.
Yes.
But what I really, I'm hoping that you would respond to is if, events of the past prove that indeed his disposition is more of a subtle support for Mr. President, whom he admits is his friend.
Look, let me finish with, or let me just move directly to that. So if I say that, if the professor says I'm not supporting the second term bid, that meant you had finished 4. In other words, we could score you based on those. That's the idea here. We're talking about someone who just came into office. You see, there's a difference, right? Yeah. So then let me think that supporting the president right now, I think it's something we all really need to do. I believe strongly that the leadership of the nation right now is something we all need to do. Why? Because we're coming from somewhere and the economy has not been nice at all. So if you want to put that load on this person who just came in, I don't think it will be fair.
But before you go ahead with that, also, you say that the Nobel laureate is neutral, is unbiased.
Yes.
But in recent times, his utterances, have caused some Nigerians to think otherwise, particularly his engagement with the obedience, when he said that the obedience didn't win the election and the obedience came after him. In fact, the leader of the movement had cause to visit him, to temper that down. So if we, assess that trajectory, that pattern of events, do you still think that he's been unbiased, has been neutral in the scheme of things, particularly if we weigh that also, against the backdrop of his friendship with the current president?
I would rather plead with you to allow us to go past the election period, please. Let's let this election stuff, obedience, the Tinubu team, and let's let that go. We are sitting and running Nigeria now. How can we run this nation? We are not in good, we don't have a good condition right now. Let me put it, I'm trying to choose my words. The economy of the world is bad at this point, the world. So, and I don't think Nigeria is, is out of that. We are all facing terrible times. That's the reason I'm saying I think we need to come together and support the leadership right now. It's not about separating one party against the other. I think we do that too much.
Well, the politics
it's not a separation, but you can go ahead. Yeah. It's an attempt to view things objectively.
I'm trying to avoid going in or poking the ideas of obedience and all of that. I mean, I don't think we need.
The point here, part of the point that Bukola is trying to make is that, and you would definitely agree with that. A lot of our government or developmental issues are politicized. We're talking about health, it's politicized. Education, it is politicized. Employment, it is politicized. The oil sector, it is politicized. Almost everything is politicized. So in most cases, people tend to view things from the political telescope as opposed to looking at whatever the issues are. The political rhetoric by the political leaders themselves lend credence to that. So if Nigerians are going to see things the way you're seeing it, you're going to have to politically advise us to see things differently. So how do we move past that? Because the trust quotient has been degraded over the years. We can't say that enough. And it is all because of this politicization. So if people are seeing whatever it is that is going on between the president and Professor Wole Soyinka, it will be difficult to depoliticize their perspective.
I cannot disagree with you, really, because we've taken a long trip down this lane. It's really been for years. Almost everything we do. In fact, as it is right now, you can tell that most of the appointments that we have in the country is viewed in certain ways to be, oh, we're trying to please one area. That's part of being political. The same thing in the past government, which was House. So I look at a situation, really, I'm used to looking at it that way. Let's find a solution and not begin to or amplify the problems we have. There are problems, we understand. How can we solve them?
And it begins with the communication to the people. How?
I do not know if you permit me to come up with this idea, what G2C is. It's actually a platform we created while I was in office, and we're still running it, to bring the Nigerian people, the citizens, to a roundtable conversation with the people in government, from small places to big places. The idea is to allow what we really call democracy, is the involvement of the people in government. That's what it means, really. So how do we get people to say, this is what we want, not what you think we want? Let me let you know this, that a lot of things that we think, oh, that the president should know, more than half of them, they do not know the real picture of things. Why? Because it's easier anywhere to have yes people around you, to have sycophants around you, than to have people look into your eyes and tell you, that's not the way, that's not what's going on out there. And that's why I think that Professor Wole Soyinka is, I believe that that's the kind of person he is. If you find other people come to the president right now and say, and I'm not too sure, they are not trying to be, looking for benefits and all that. But I don't believe it's
should it be so? You said, a good number of things, without quoting you copiously, that are happening, the president doesn't know. Should it be so? The president had cause to go round the country ahead of his election. He had a lot of engagements with Nigerians. He had a lot of engagement with groups. And he couldn't have said at that time that as a result of his trip around the country, he didn't have a firm knowledge of the challenges. So why 6 months down the line do you think that because he has sycophants around him, he's not abreast of what exactly is going on in the country?
Bukola, trust me, it doesn't work the way you think it does. When you go around the nation trying to campaign, it doesn't work that way at all. You do not know exactly at that point what the people are asking for. You're only going out to campaign. You see, there are systems that work around your campaign within your party. You campaign, against one other party and then go into elections. These are different things. When you go around the nation meeting out to the people, meeting the people and all of that, they are usually not the people. Do you even want to know that a lot of times when you go around that way, the people there are telling you, please remember us, do this. People don't go for, look at my people and look at what we need. We hardly hear that. I've been around the nation a number of times. Well, that's not what we hear.
Mr. Gore, it will be difficult for anyone to agree with you for a number of reasons. One of which is the president, the federal government, and I don't care which president was ever in office, has had the opportunity to break the government, to to decentralize. Your ransomware report, I don't know how many times we've talked about that one. True federalism, I don't know how many times we've talked about that one. Decentralize or what's the word now? Relinquish some powers to the states. I don't know for how long we've heard that one, and the president, whichever president it is, still has those things holding on. But I'm not the only one asking questions. Our colleagues in Abuja have questions for you as well. Go ahead, Nelta.
All right, thank you, Ayo. Mr. Bori, thank you for coming on to the show. You've spoken quite copiously about the things that the president is out to do and what he has promised, and that matter of the president may not know everything happening around him based on the fact that, or he may not have people that are ready to look him in the face and tell him things objectively as they are. But let's look at this, what the president does know and the comments and promises he has made to Nigerians. For instance, we'll start off from that matter of a 50% discount for transportation. Indeed, that promise was made, and it also happened in some places. But you see, the manner of communication. The president made a promise to put Nigerians first at every point in time. There are those who will say that putting Nigerians first is not effectively being communicated. So 50% discount there were 4 companies listed in that press statement that was released. But it only applied, when you go to the country, it applied to only 3 routes. That wasn't known to the public. Is that how we're going to be carried along? How then would people begin to understand the vision and mission the president is on if it is not effectively communicated to the people that he has promised to put first?
Okay, you see, I remember that this idea of 50% discount on transportation was given just a few days ago. I do not believe that there was enough time to plan that and carry that through the whole of the nation. I do not believe that was enough time. Let me see this as a starter. In other words, maybe some other times when we have festive seasons this way, we would have had better knowledge of what to do, and then it might run better at those times. For it to run good at this point will cost a lot of more trouble or even time. If you know what I mean. It's just a few days ago. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not saying that was right, or, that many people should not have benefited from it. No, that's not my point. I hope that other times, in days to come, those things will be better planned and better executed. That's what I think. Aneta.
So let me ask you then. I know that you seem to agree with Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka that it is quite early in the day to criticize. I mean, he has said, I give at least a year to see that, to see how they're performing before I begin to, give my own public opinion on certain things. But I want to ask you if you think that we're currently on track, because some people who say that morning tells the day. If a government is going to get it right within the next 4 years, we should begin to know from the steps that they have taken so far. From what you have seen from the cabinet that has been appointed and some of the economic policies that have been pelted out, would you say that we are on the right track?
That's kind of tricky. Let me just hope that maybe step by step, time by time, that the things that are, rolled out would work. The reason is this. We've taken a long trip in bringing the nation down to some level. To bring that nation back to its place or to our place will also take time. It will take time. The way I look at it is this. Imagine a nation that stays on a mountain, or maybe say a rock that stays on the mountain and rolls down the valley. It's going to take time for you to roll it back up to that valley, to the top of that mountain. That's the way the economy is right now. So I'm going to be, very careful in saying we are going in the right direction. I can only hope. Why? Because those who will make things work are going to be people like, out of that government, really, not the people in government. I've looked at a few things, and you can even tell. In fact, if you look at the number of appointments and the way things are being shaky on the inside, you can tell that, we're still trying to calibrate and find a balance of what to do and how to go about things. I hope you see the way I look at it. I hope you see that.